So, Julie, tell me what this is, genetic sexual attraction.
GSA it's an attraction that happens between family members who've been separated for most of their lives and haven't had the chance to bond properly.
What's your story?
My father and I reunited last year, and we had a great reunion. It was very emotional. One of the key things that happened was we realized how much time had gone by, and there was a lot of grief. And so this sort of propelled us into this intense, hyper relationship where we were constantly communicating, constantly trying to find out more about each other, and the more we got to know, the more we realized how much we connected.
Now, there's connecting that goes on between, like, you're a little baby girl and this is daddy, and there's a genetic fittedness to that connection. And that's what you're saying you're getting back in touch with now as an adult?
Yes, well, what I remember...
Except I have a question.
Okay.
Is there a sexual component to it now?
Oh, there wasn't at first.
But then there was.
Well, exactly. What happened was I actually said to my husband, I said, I feel the same feelings that I felt when I fell in love with you. I feel like I'm falling in love.
Well, that must have felt great for him.
Well,
your poor husband. What a horrible conversation to have.
No, he knew that what I was talking about. We have daughters.
Was your dad? That's what you were talking about.
Because our daughters, 3 and 4 years old at the time, want to marry my husband. They come down in dresses, Daddy, marry me. They have this heroic awe for their father. And so I never got to do that with my father. So I started to feel that, but I'm an adult, so I was really confused.
What'd you do with it?
Well, I kind of kept it to myself, mostly, but, you know, I was definitely more needy. You know, I constantly wanted to talk to him. I wanted to be in his presence. I wanted to hold his hand, be on, you know, under his arm and all that kind of stuff. And what happened was there started to be some tension, and I could tell that he, too, was struggling with feelings of attraction from me.
Can you understand that feels a little gross?
Absolutely.
Okay, I want to know if Carly had the same experience.
Absolutely.
Is that the same thing?
And it's supposed to feel gross, and it's good that we have that repulsion against it because it keeps our society healthy. You know, no one comes into reconnecting with a family member and want this to happen.
So it happened to you, same exact, is this the story that you went through?
Very similar.
Very similar.
It was more of a very quick emotional bonding, emotional need to connect with him. I and Julie both sought help as soon as we realized something was really off here. I mean, you know in your head, this is not right.
Right.
And getting the support early on for both of us prevented the worst scenario.
Okay, let's take some calls and see what our viewers want to say about this. Dave in Texas, go right ahead. Julie and Carly.
How you doing, Dr. Drew?
Hi, Dave.
It's great to talk with you.
Thanks for calling in.
I just wanted to make a few observations. I myself have never been in a GSA relationship. However, I had a son at a very young age. I was not allowed to be a part of his life growing up. When he turned 26, he re-entered my life. By this time, I was married and had children with my wife, and he and my daughter entered into a GSA relationship.
Hold on, slow down. I want to make sure I understand this. He with your his biological sister?
Half-sister.
Half-sister, all of a sudden, how old were they at the time?
He was 26, she was 17.
Ooh. What did you do?
I kind of went crazy for a little bit.
Yeah.
It was very, very hard to accept. I had been on an emotional high because I had wanted to be a part of my son's life. And then all of a sudden, all of this extra baggage came along with it that I hadn't expected.
I should say, what is your advice for Dave?
Is to know that this can happen, and that's why we're here. We're putting ourselves out there with such a stigma and taboo. But people need to know that this is not about the sex. It's about delayed bonding. It's about the attachment. The same hormones that happen when a mother gives birth to a baby, the oxytocin, is what is happening here.
But the important part is that we want to prevent this because when...
That shouldn't have happened.
No, well,
for
because...
poor Dave should have intervened on this one. He was going crazy appropriately.
Well, but the thing is, if we can get people support and say, listen, when you reunite with a loved one,
something's going to happen.
You may feel sexually attracted to them. It's misplaced bonding. Don't go there because you will wreak havoc on your whole family.
Does this happen to, are you suggesting that this happens to most people that reunite with genetic? No.
No. and we don't know why. And it's
No,
sad.
he's asking, how often does this happen to reunited people?
Oh.
Does it happen a lot? Should they anticipate it happening? Is it something that's just people are feeling quietly, not talking about it?
Unfortunately, yeah.
So
And
it's you should anticipate this happening.
there's been one study that said 50%.
50%.
Up to 50%,
So
yes.
somebody like Dave, who has joy in reuniting with his biological son, should get help when it comes to bringing the rest of him, the son, together with everybody else.
They need support, and they need to be able to talk about it. And who wants to talk and say, yeah, I'm feeling sexually attracted to my blood relative?
Wow. Justin in Vermont, what do you got for us, Justin?
Hey, Drew.
Justin.
I feel kind of disgusted by this, the whole incest thing. I'm just curious if do you think it's any kind of mental disorder that causes people to do this?
Well, it's a great question, and I think I'd perhaps even reframe it by asking, so you had biological parents, right? I mean, adoptive parents.
I had my biological mother and my
your
adopted father.
Could you
raised me.
imagine having sexual feelings for it?
Absolutely not.
And so that's why, because you had a healthy relationship with him,
Yes.
you knew this attraction you're having to this man that was known to be your biological father, but a stranger to you,
Exactly.
had some problem,
Yes.
some root cause that was not good.
Right.
So should we call it a pathology, or should we call it, what should we call it?
But that's the
We've been-
problem.
we've been
No
trying
One, no
to
one
think
has
of a
touched
name.
this. You know, as a clinician myself, I went and I started researching it, and I couldn't find any information on it except one book and one forum.
Was it ancient, like from the turn of the century kind of
No,
thing? Because sometimes you'll find stuff that people are more
Right.
honest 100 years ago than
Yeah.
now.
No. What's happening is that the imprinting that we have in our family systems when we're growing up in the very primitive parts of our upbringing, we get an aversion against anyone who's in that surroundings. When you don't have that opportunity and you meet later in life, this is a possibility.
You don't have that taboo feeling that you should have.
My head begins to spin when I think about it.
Yeah.
You really,
It's shocking.
Yeah, it's shocking.
It's more than shocking, though. It's a little mind-bending. First, you get disgust, and then you get kind of a dizzy feeling. Your training is what, Carly? What's your
I'm
background?
an art therapist.
Art therapist. So you have particularly training in attachment and those sorts of
Yes.
models, which is
Yes.
really what we're messing with here, the brain's
Exactly.
attachment mechanisms, which can go off the rails. We're finding here. Linda in Colorado, you had a question for us or a comment?
Hi, Dr. Drew.
Hi, Linda.
I've never heard of GSA before, so I checked out their website, and it seems logical and reasonable. I was wondering what you thought about GSA.
Well, logical and reasonable is one thing. There's nothing logical and reasonable about the experiences these women are having. That's the whole point. If they were logical and reasonable, they would dismiss it and carry on. The problem is this is a part of the brain. I've done a lot of work in attachment, and that's how I get through to drug addicts, because they all have those issues going on. And this is a part of the brain that's beneath consciousness. It's sort of a motivational system. It's probably its own system that operates from birth before we have things like consciousness and verbal recall and memory. And it's there in us, and evidently, and it makes sense to me that this would happen, that if the proper fittedness isn't there throughout life, your brain will still look for that fittedness. And when it finds it, it's really how we find romantic love, guys. It's the fittedness of romantic love. The problem is this has gone off the rail because the fittedness actually finds the actual genetic fit of the biological father to be what they need, which was supposed to have been worked through when they were little girls, and it never happened. And now, oh my God, they're adults. And now you've got a husband. What do your husbands think about all this? Then I got to go to break.
My husband was obviously very angry.
Very upset, yes,
Very
thank you.
Angry.
Okay.
But you know what? But you want to know what the difference was? He knew that I wasn't looking for another man. He knew I was looking for my father, and I think that's what kept us together. He knew this wasn't about a broken